Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Commercial.
All right. So we're here again for another episode. This is Chris.
And this is Carlos Asensio.
We have our team member, Adrian Trejo, here with us today on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you guys.
Welcome, Adrian.
So we're going to start off this time with the coffee. We're featuring today some Pike from Starbucks.
It's really good.
Let's give it a sip.
That's my second sip, by the way. It's really good.
It's good stuff. Mm-hmm. Good, mellow coffee. Basic, but it's a good standard to start with.
Yeah.
So before we get into the commercial side of things, let's wrap up with the coffee. So if you had to say what's your favorite coffee spot and what do you get from there?
Okay. So there's one coffee place that I really like. But I do have to say I make my own blend. At home. It's a special blend.
I've tried this blend.
And, it has collagen peptides, has ashwagandha powder, right? And then it also has a splash of MCT oil. And, I love it. It has a mushroom powder and botanical blends, adaptogens.
Is that the magical coffee you were talking to me about the other day? Woo, okay.
Yeah.
It's got
I felt like I was on Limitless. I was starting to
Yeah.
see the world in slow motion.
Yeah. It just, it helps you just get you up and living, and your brain and your thinking, just your thought process, it just gets you going for sure. So
he sees 10 steps ahead.
There you go. Well, you need that in commercial real estate.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, yes you do.
Yeah, we do. Honestly, you need it. Like on every deal, it feels like you got to be like 20 or 30 steps ahead of everybody,
Yeah.
So take us through kind of your journey. How did you get into commercial real estate?
Yeah. So it started back in November of 2020 for me. Essentially that's when I left what I was doing prior, in the fitness industry. Then I got into real estate in April of 2021. And, just deciding where my home was going to be, what a brokerage I should go to. And as you know, when you're in the beginning of your real estate journey, that's the first step, right? So I did that, and I found Remax Top Producers and Jeanette and Christian Fuentes, I found a home. I learned residential, but I knew that wasn't like the first, that was the first step for me. Is like I feel like any realtor, should know, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn. And quickly, I found myself, just looking at that Remax Top Producers commercial, logo there, and I was like, And then, one of my best friends, he is, involved in commercial lending, and he's been in the industry, for quite some time.
Shout out Meraki Capital.
Shout out Meraki Capital. And I was like, okay. It just seemed like it was in line. Like, it just seemed like that's where I was going to be, right? And and meeting you guys especially. And I remember, I don't know how it happened, but, we got on a Zoom call, and I was actually staying at the Ritz-Carlton. And
I remember that.
Carlos and I, after, were like, where is this guy? He's doing an interview from, like, the Ritz-Carlton and he's chilling out there with the pool in the background. And
yeah, you guys were asking me, like, let's meet in person. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. I was like, let's do Zoom. But it was because at that time, I was working involved, right? Because I was with my friend Steven, right? He's already, trying to help me out, get started, right? Because one thing is it's hard to get in commercial real estate to begin with. The barrier, the entry level is really difficult. They do say like 1 out of 10 agents, they barely make it within the first few years of business, and that's residential. But just imagine commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So meeting you guys and having you guys as my mentors really inspired me, and I think you guys have really helped me understand, commercial and help me to feel confident and, get in the game, and
appreciate the kind words, man.
No, and I think really what it comes down to, and this goes for like all of our team members, we all started off in residential. And I think when you're in residential, you learn customer service. Because in residential, if you don't have good customer service, another agent will come in and take your lunch.
Yeah.
So you got to have that really good, excellent customer service. And then once you've learned that style of business, it's easier to translate into the commercial world, and you're able to deliver a better level of service than what customers are used to getting in the commercial field. So like, Carlos, what do you think about kind of the transition from residential to commercial?
Well, when I started in residential, and then I went ahead and got introduced to do commercial by one of my clients that was at that time, needing the services. But I think that for me to make that transition to kind of dive into the commercial sector was easy because, one, I love customer service. And when I was dealing with a lot of these, businesses or entrepreneurs, those entrepreneurs also strived in their customer service. So by them seeing the customer service I was providing, it connected us, right? Because they're starting a business, they strive on customer service, then they have another person that believes in the same process, the same system of customer service, and that's where it creates a relationship, right? So that's how I started, where, my clients saw that the customer service I was providing got them into their deals. They kept on just calling me up like, hey, here's another referral, because I always looked at my type of business of customer service first and paychecks the last thing, right? But for me, it's like we look at the volume. That's what we always try to teach our agents. Like, don't just try to cash in on that first deal. Provide your customer service and let the volume roll in, Yep.
Mm-hmm. What kind of drew you into commercial itself? Like, what was intriguing to you about it?
I think the most intriguing part was the challenge, right? The challenge, and just to work with business owners, right? And I think that, having a passion, right? And, wanting to grow and having the entrepreneur spirit, I think I was able to relate to that type of individual, right? And, just having that, knowing that like I could help a small business grow, or just in general, like with their passion, I think that gives me fulfillment, Was
there at any moments when you started like working on your first deal or your first client, was there any moment that you were getting discouraged? Like, you've like, dude, I can't do this. This is like, the process is too long, and, I don't know if I'm going to be able to commit to this client and get him to the finish line, right?
Yeah, I think it was more so of, I need to learn more. I had that realization that, to just study, right? And to just understand the processes of it, because it's very much different. Mm-hmm. It's very much different from the residential side of things. So when I get into the commercial side, it's a whole nother reality when it comes to dealing with, the real estate transaction or the lease, whether it's a sale or a purchase. It takes much more due diligence, mm-hmm. and effort and hard work, and to just make sure that, you have to follow the steps, right? And all goes back to customer service too as well. So it really comes full circle, trying to balance it all together. Yeah. And especially when you're new to something, you're like, man, I need. So it's more so of, I really noticed that, it's a new challenge, and for me, that was just the part of where I didn't look at it as like, I can't do this. It was more so of, it's like, I need to study, I need to learn, and to have you guys, right, to have that guidance, so I always say your mentors, right, in your environment. So that support system that, that I was involved with in this group, it really helped me to mature very quickly. And to also, be coachable, and also learn from how can I grow and how can I get better, and always having that positive mindset, because you're going to make mistakes,
We all do. I mean, it's like no one's going to come into this field being the perfect agent. We learn from every transaction.
100%.
And then we become wiser from every deal that we put together.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I always say I don't know everything, but I can learn anything. And so kind of going with that mindset allows you to adapt to the situation. And usually experience is the best teacher. So you can read about it in books, you can take classes on how to do commercial. The best way to learn it, do a transaction.
Hands-on.
And work with mentors that can give you the guidance along the way. But the best way to learn it is by doing. And I think that's kind of how Carlos and I both learned how to do commercial, was just by doing. And helping clients and wanting to learn every aspect of it. I remember watching YouTube videos on like, what's a cap rate? How do you calculate that? What's net operating income?
How to prepare the LOIs.
What's an OM? Yeah, I remember the first time asking a listing agent, can you send me like information on the property, the sales price and everything? And he's like, oh, you mean an OM? And I was like, oh, what's that? And he's like, oh, offering memorandum. I was like, yeah, send me one of those.
Yes.
Whatever that is,
yes,
I'll take one of those.
Or the other one too, when I would call in when I was starting back then, and people were like, oh, hey, what's can you give me a description of your property and the price? You're talking about you need the setup sheet. That's another thing that they use for. I'm like, yeah, that. Okay. And right away, that agent, you're like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about or what he's doing. So as I learned, as I was, moving on within the process, I mean, those were stuff that I had a YouTube. Thank God for YouTube,
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And what type of challenges are you seeing right now with the clients that you're dealing with? Because I feel like you're dealing with some difficult transactions right now, and kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, so there's no shortage of clients. It's more so of finding the right fit and also advising them on their financials, right? And a lot of times, when I do go through the process, it's I let them know like, hey, like this is what's available, and this is how you're supposed to put your financials together. And most of the time, that's where I'm finding right now. I think it's initially getting into the business though that I'm having these challenges. I think as I write down my ideal client, as I put that out there and really start to market myself in a way, I think that will be definitely a solution. But overall, the challenges, I think, is just entry level, right? Getting into the business, starting up with a base, a foundation. But ultimately, I think that will change as I go on through the process. And that will all also, moving forward, I think that, by me being there with the startups, right? Me being there with these clients, and service based, right? As Carlos, as you mentioned, right? And taking care of them in the right way. And, not looking to make the dollar, but more so of just, having a service-oriented mindset. I think in the long run, we're going to find a place.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time.
But
that's the challenge I'm having, is finding the right fit. But as you know, like they have to see themselves, being able to grow in that space. It's not just like a residential home. Like, oh, I like this home. I'm gonna. Yeah. It's a income producing property. They need to see themselves making money there and thriving, so it's much different, so
the numbers just have to make sense at the end of the day for them,
Right.
They have to pencil out.
Right.
And I think also in this environment that we're in right now, coming out of, the pandemic and then going right into a recession, landlords are very picky on what they want to see. And it's like some clients don't understand that the financials not only have to be good, but be structured in a way that the landlord will accept. Meaning, if you've got a bunch of money in the bank, but your past 2 years' financials don't look good, no deal. Because, landlords know at the end of the day, you could move that money out of that account in a heartbeat. And if you haven't shown that your business can really support itself with its financials, then you're going to be out of luck in trying to find a space.
Yeah. Because all these business owners, the way they look at it, it's like, oh, you're cheating on your taxes, you're going to cheat on me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the way they're going to always interpret the information.
Yeah. And so, really kind of looking at our relationship with our clients as we're financial strategists as well, to help them kind of structure the deal, partnering up with some of our commercial lending partners to look at their financials and say, hey, if you're thinking about buying a building and you want to get this expensive of a building, let's start structuring your taxes and networking with CPAs to say, hey, help this client structure their taxes in such a way that they can report enough to qualify for what they want to get into. And I think going into the fourth quarter of the year, we have to, prepare our clients accordingly, because a lot of people are going to position themselves to do something first quarter of 2023. Well, you start that preparation right now, and how you structure everything so that going into the year, at the end of the year, you close out well, financials report well, you can go qualify for anything you want to going into January. So like, how are you kind of coaching your clients to prepare themselves, and what kind of service can someone expect dealing with you as their commercial agent?
Yes. So, for me, I look at it, I take a step back. And I really try to understand get to know them, not only on a business level, but also on a personal level. Because, the more that they tell me and the more that information that they give, the better understanding that I have. So I've just been asking a lot of questions, right? And just sharing them just a lot of information, and just being an open book. Like you call me, text me anytime, and a lot of times I started noticing that the relationships are changing. They're starting to be like, hey, Adrian, like, I trust you. Like, hey, there's, you've always looked out for my best interests. And I think that's what I've been doing, is just relationship building. And I think that's the most important moving forward, because you're dealing with, a lot more money, down, right? And a lot more money is involved, especially in the space that we're in.
Yep.
So I have that understanding, like, this is their business. This is where, these business owners are putting food on their table. This is how they make their money. This is how they feed their wife and their children, and, take care of their family. So I take it upon myself to always keep that in the back of my head when I'm talking and communicating with them, and look out for their best interests at the end of the day. Because
they're building trust in you, and the thing is, to build trust with other people, it's very difficult, like the situation with Ruben, right? The San Bernardino buyer that we're helping out. So now it's like he's trusting me with more detailed information of what they want to do for the future and what they want to do now. So he calls me for everything now. Hey, I'm thinking about selling, or I'm thinking about buying this, and I'm thinking about maybe expanding here. So now he's calling me for more information, my opinions. So every time I give him information, it's like my opinion is valuable to him, which when we started, he wasn't trusting me. So now we've created that trust relationship that his daughter, his wife, and now he calls me, for advice, which for us in the commercial sector, when you have a client that can trust you 100%, that goes a long way, because once they trust you, again, they know a lot of more people, and that's an open book of new business for you.
100%.
And that's why, like, I always, you always got to make sure that you take care of your clients in so many different ways that, again, you got to look out after them, and that's how you're going to build your trust.
Right.
Thank you for being with us on this episode, and giving a voice to your experience and what you bring to the table in commercial real estate. And we have big expectations of you as we go into this next year, and we think you have a bright future ahead of you.
Thank you, Crisante and Carlos. It's always a pleasure, and I love it.
I see a lot of big things coming for you too as well for the next year, because I think you have the right mindset to just take it to another level.
Yeah, I do. I just want to make sure that, like, I just maximize my potential, and I do my best. And that's all I could do.
You're doing a good job at it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on Coffee and Commercial.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.